everybody and welcome to my channel. Today I wanted to talk to you about blocking. Now blocking is something I regularly mention on my channel when doing crochet squares or shawls and whatnot. I'll often talk about how you can block your project afterwards. Now I get an awful lot of questions about what is blocking, why do we do it, how. So this video is to help you with all those questions and hopefully provide you with the answers that you need. Now, in advance, tiny little disclaimer, I am by no means an expert in the field of blocking and fibers and how they react to heat and water and all that jazz. I am merely going to show you the 3 most common methods for blocking. I'm going to be working with acrylic. If you have a specific fiber and a specific project that you want to work with, by all means ask me a question in the comments section below and I may be able to help you, but it could just be a case of you might need to research that particular fiber a little bit more thoroughly than I'm going to cover in this video today. If this is your first visit to my channel, it would be amazing if you just took a moment to hit that subscribe button and the bell notification so you don't miss out on any of my future crochet videos. Okay, first off, what is blocking? Blocking is a method of shaping your finished crochet items. So there are several methods on how to do that, which I'm going to get to, and I do have timestamps in the description box below. So if there is a specific question, if you click the show more button to expand that description box, you'll see all the questions listed with little numbers next to them. If you click that number, it will take you immediately to that part of the video where hopefully that question has been answered. So the next question, why block your items? Why do it? Okay, so there's several reasons why people block their crochet items. Now, personally, I'm a lazy crocheter. If I don't have to block something, I won't. You do not have to block your items. The main reasons for why you would block your item. First off, for ease of joining. So obviously you can see this is a crochet square. So a lot of people like to block their squares so they are all the exact same shape and size before they commence the joining to turn it into a blanket. Now, more often than not, the weight of the finished blanket will pull everything into shape anyway. So it's more for the perfectionists out there that like their squares to be perfectly square before they start joining. Another reason is shaping. Obviously, if you've got a square and it's not square at all, you want it to be square or whatever shape, triangles. I can't think of any other shapes. But you know what I mean. It's essentially to shape your finished item. Snowflakes, crochet snowflakes, that's a classic that you want to block to get that real definition of shape. Stitch definition is another reason for blocking. So if you have made a particularly lacy item, so for instance, my lightweight summer shawl is made up of chains. Now those chains want to lie together. By blocking, you open it out to show the stitch definition or the overall finished product. It just makes it that little bit crisper. Drape is another reason why people will block. Sometimes if you block an item out, it gives beautiful softness and drape at the other side, particularly if you are steam blocking and killing the fabric, which we will get to a little later on. Another reason people block is just for that finished look. So if you are gifting or selling your crochet items, sometimes it's really just that tiny little polish at the end. So rather than having this sort of shape, you have a perfect defined square. It just makes your item that final just look. Okay, so that's some of the very many reasons why people block their items. So it'd be great to know. Let me know in the comments, do you block your items? And if so, why? So what methods are there for how to block? So there's 3 main methods which I'm going to cover in this video today, and I'm going to show you how to do. The first method, which I'm not going to actually demonstrate, but I will talk you through, is wet blocking. The second method is spray blocking, and the third method is steam blocking. So the main materials you need for blocking, regardless of which method you are going to use, first off, obviously your crochet project that you wish to block. Then you are going to want something foam to pin it to. Now I use these super cheap jigsaw puzzle shaped mats, play mats, which you can buy online very, very cheaply. They all slot together so you can make a huge, great big mat if you've got a larger project, or you can just use the one individual square itself. You can use anything that you don't mind sticking a pin in and getting a bit soggy. When blocking much larger items, I've used my carpet. As long as you can get a pin into it and it can stay there whilst it dries, you're free to pretty much use anything. Just be aware, obviously it's going to get damp. The most important thing for blocking are your pins. Now, you can use normal sort of glass head pins as long as they are stainless steel and rust proof. Now, these pins, some are, some aren't, so I'm not going to be using my sort of little pin stash today. I'm going to be using stainless steel blocking T-pins. Now, I've linked to everything in the description box below. You can pick these up on Amazon pretty cheaply. I've got a pot, I think it's about 500 in this pot. They're quite sharp at the bottom. They're very strong and sturdy and hard to bend. And they've got this handy little sort of T-shape, which makes it nice and easy to pull out of your project at the end. The other thing you're going to need is a tape measure, just so that you are aware of what you're doing when you pin out your item. So the wet method of blocking would essentially be, I take this square or the full blanket or the project and I dunk it in a big bowl of nice water, and you leave it soaking for a good 10-15 minutes in water because you want those fibers to really start to relax and fully absorb the water. Once your item is completely wet, you would take it out. Do not wring your item. You don't want to be crushing your crochet and wringing it when it is wet. You just want to place it on a towel and then roll that towel to gently press as much of the liquid out as you can. At that stage, you would be ready to come back here with your slightly damp, soggy crochet item and then follow on with the methods that I'm going to show for both spray and steam blocking. So when you have your crochet piece either wet from the wet blocking method or dry, as I have here to demonstrate both steam and spray blocking, what you want to do is grab your pins and pick a corner just to pin it in place. So I'm going to use my T-pins here. Then it is simply a case of pin the four corners. Try not to wildly overstretch. I'm just roughly pinning it out for now. Then you want to grab your tape measure. So how you can tell if something is square is take the corner to corner measurement. So this one here is to that point on my tape measure. That's the same size there. So even just by eye, I've somehow managed to get the diagonals the same size. Obviously, this isn't quite the finished effect I want, so I'm going to go ahead and add a few more pins. You can add as many or as few as you wish. It's however you want your project to be the final shape. So I'm going to go ahead and add a few more pins. All right, so I've added in some extra pins. Now, for the sake of this video, I've been a little bit rough and ready and I've just kind of done it by eye. But you are, of course, free to be a lot more careful and take your time with how it goes. Now, I'm just going to give mine a final measure to see how good my eye is or isn't. Those pins are going to, of course, now be getting in my way. Okay, so mine is sitting square that way. You can, of course, take the measurement this way if you prefer for your square. All depends how you want to measure. Now I can't really get my, here we go. So that's 6 inches that way. And it's, oops, 6 inches that way, or there or thereabouts. Now, if you've overstretched your project, it will spring back. So just try not to force it. You can see there's quite a bit of movement here. I'm not wildly pulling it out of shape. Just be a little bit careful and then you're good to go. So for spray blocking, we have our pinned out item here. You want to grab yourself just a generic spray bottle. This is the one I use to mist my houseplants with some fresh water in. And all you are going to do is just spray and get your project damp. Then all you would do, whether you've wet blocked or spray blocked like that, leave it to dry. Now, both these methods take the longest to dry because it's not very breathable being pinned to anything, really, whether it's your carpet or a foam mat. So you need to have a bit of patience. Once this is dry, you can remove your pins, take it out, good to go. If you are impatient, like me, or you want to kill your fabric, especially if working with acrylic, then you want to use steam. So what is killing the fabric? I've mentioned it several times. So killing the fibers, essentially, with acrylic, if you over steam and apply too much heat to your project, those fibers will permanently take that shape. So you just need to go a little careful, unless obviously your aim is to sort of kill the fabric. And then of course you've set it permanently, but you want to go careful because if you haven't pinned it perfectly and then you kill it, you're stuffed, it's kept that shape. So for steam, I use a handheld garment steamer. It's just a little travel steamer. And of course, typically before filming this video, could I find it anywhere? No. And that just proves my statement that I'm quite lazy and don't block unless I really have to, that I made right in the very beginning, because I can't find it anywhere. I can't even remember the last time I properly blocked a finished item. In the absence of a handheld steamer, you do of course have your classic iron. Now, you want your iron to have a steam function, otherwise it's not going to work. Now, if you're using an iron, do not let your hot iron touch your fibers. They will melt, particularly with acrylic, it melts. So you do not want this to touch at all. I'm going to go ahead and heat this bad boy up and give it a couple of puffs of steam. I know it's obviously wet from my demo from a second ago, but just to show you the idea behind it, I'm going to puff this up and hopefully not completely ruin my camera with all the steam. Okay, so my iron is heated up now, and I just wanted to, before I actually blast it with steam, I'm going to show you this way around so you can see. I'm not going to hold my iron any closer to the fabric than this. I mean, you can see all the wet spray from when I sprayed it, but that is about the maximum distance I'm going to go when I'm holding the iron over the square. So let me just make sure it's actually at steam ready. There we go. So I'm just holding it over and I'm pressing my little steam button just to give it a couple of puffs. I'm not going to go too mad. For a simple square like this, that's probably enough. So that's the quickest way. So all you would need to do, it will make the fabric a little bit damp, but that's fine. You may get a couple of drops of water. You then want to leave your square to completely cool down. 2 seconds. So just turn this iron off. So that's going to carry on bubbling away. I'm just going to move it as it cools down. But you would leave this to cool completely. So I've sort of vaguely, hopefully, in a bit of a mishmash, shown you all three ways. You have the getting it wet, pin it out, leave to dry. You have the pin it out, spray it with some water, leave it to dry. Or you have pin it out whilst obviously dry, blast it with some steam, Do not touch the fabric itself with your hot iron or your handheld steamer. Leave it to cool, and therefore it will dry if it's got a little bit damp. Then once everything is completely dry, you can unpin it. Now I'm going to leave this to dry. This poor abused little sample here, which has had sprays and steam, I'm going to leave it to dry, and then I'll meet you back here in just a moment once it's dry to unpin it and show you how it looks out the other side. All right, so it's been a few hours and I've had this left out drying. Now, in an ideal world, you want to leave this to dry overnight. But once it is dry, yep, this is all dry, you can go ahead and slowly unpin all those pins you placed in. Now, you may find it starts to spring back slightly and relax, unless, of course, you've killed the fabric, at which point it would be holding firm. So you can see I've taken out all the pins and it's still holding its shape. If I pick it up, it's also holding its shape beautifully and it's very soft and drapey. So another question that gets asked a lot: if I've blocked my project, will I need to reblock it again if I wash it? So you've made a beautiful full blanket and you've carefully blocked. You can either block the individual squares or the final finished blanket, however, which way, or both, totally up to you. You've finished your beautiful project, you've blocked it, your shawl, your blanket, your squares. If they are then washed and they come out of the washing machine and you leave it to dry, will all this hard work have gone to waste? So the answer is yes and no. It all depends on the fiber you have used. So cotton is generally pretty good at holding its shape. If you have extreme blocked something and the fibers naturally want to go back together, then you will probably have to reblock it each time. If you have, with acrylic, killed the fabric completely by over steaming, no, that's permanent. You will never have to block it again. Does it matter if it needs reblocking again? That's the question. Once you have a blanket, if you're throwing it through the washing machine, it shows you're clearly using it and it's a well-loved item. No one is going to lay it out completely flat and measure it to see if it is still square. People just don't notice. Same with a shawl. You throw that on and off your neck. Does it matter if you've chucked it through the washing machine and your stitches aren't quite as perfect before? Does it matter if you love it anyway? However, as I mentioned, one of the reasons people like to block particularly is for stitch definition. So it is completely optional. If you wanted to go through all these steps again, so be it. Personally, I don't bother. Once I've blocked it and I've gifted it, it's out there in the wild. So no, blocking isn't permanent, but yes, it can be, depending on the fiber and the method you have used. So hopefully this rather long video has given you a decent insight into how, why, and when you would block an item, if at all, and that it has proven useful to you. I've tried to be as comprehensive as possible, but if you have any questions, please feel free to shout in the comments section below. Ask me a question. I try my best to get to every single one of you, and I will do my very best to answer. In the description box below, I've put links to everything I've mentioned, all the videos and the products. They're all linked down there. And I'd be really keen to hear from you guys. What is your preferred method of blocking? Mine personally, steam. But hey, I think we've all established at this point, I'm impatient and relatively lazy. So I'm always going to opt for the fastest method. So I'll see you again on my channel very soon for a normal crochet tutorial. But until then, happy blocking. Bye.